And we're live. Hopefully all is good with the stream because I am coming to you live all the way from Italy at this moment. And so far, so good. Give me a thumbs up if it is. We got a lot going on. But most importantly, at this moment, you have the Democrat Party really turning on the Socialists for the first time. I think they've finally figured out they're not going to win with these guys.
If he becomes a force in the Democratic Party, I'm out of here.
Whoa! He's talking about Hasan Piker, okay? He being James Carville. If you're joining us on audio, thank you for that. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. The Democrat Party is in the middle of a huge schism right now. You've got a split effectively going on with those that are, dare I say, somewhat sensible, if we can call any of them sensible, coming to their senses and saying, we need to part ways. We need to part ways with the crazies right about now because the DSA is not something that is going to be good for America or good for, let's face it, our political futures. Here's James Carville speaking at a Democrat press conference that was captured over Zoom earlier today. I want to share this one with you. Watch.
I have no idea why the Democratic Socialists, if you hate the Democratic Party so much, well, then don't use our goddamn name. Go think of your own name. But at any rate, I think this is a real step in the right direction. I think a lot of people put a lot of work into this. I think it's a great product. And thank you for allowing me to say a few words, son.
Right. So we know how he feels right about now. And he's been saying this for a couple of weeks now. He's really not been pleased with the Mamdanis and the Ilhan Omars and the Rashida Tlaibs. He's kind of coming around weirdly on AOC, but she's a whole other problem right now. In fact, the DSA is cutting her off. The DSA wants nothing to do with her. I'll get to that. So yeah, he's kind of warming up to her, but these others off in crazy land, he's like, it's me or them, okay? That's what it's coming down to. I'm out if they're in. They got to find a new name for their party, and they got to get far, far away from any of us traditionalists. Listen to
talk about the larger Democratic Party post the election in Michigan going forward. I am not going to be in the same party with Hasan Piker. I can tell you that right now. If he becomes a force in the Democratic Party, I'm out of here. I have no intention of ever being in the same political party with that guy. Mm-hmm. Now, I think that overwhelming majority of Democrats agree with me. But this idea that we're going to seize the means of production and just go look at the DSA platform. You don't have to look any further than that. And, Jackie, it may be that the two-party system is just going to be under tremendous stress here in the coming months. I mean, you see it in with Tucker and Marjorie Taylor Greene and on the Republican side. You see it going on right now. And I can't sit here and tell you for certain how this is going to turn out. But the one thing I can tell you for certain, Hasan Piker and James Carville are not going to be in the same political party. One of us is going to leave. It might even be me.
Wow. I mean, kind of interesting. Our thanks to Jackie over on Fox News for that clip. So Carville's basically saying, it's me or it's the crazies. And the scary thing for the Democrat Party overall is that the crazies are the ones with the momentum. And when I say crazy, I mean, this guy's awful. I don't even like to have to play this stuff, but you need to know what the country's up against. You need to know what the Democrats are up against. So this Hasan Piker dude, I mean, bad dude, says bad things, celebrates 9/11, says America deserved it. I'll let you, I don't want to put words in this guy's mouth because I certainly can't do it justice. Here he is in all his glory.
America deserved 9/11, dude. If Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, America is the top terrorist organization, which it is, by the way. America is the top dog in terrorism, and so is Israel.
Okay. Like I said, bad dude. So good for Carville, all right, for coming out. But, it's a survival instinct, too. I think they're figuring out they have no future with the crazies. One, in terms of the policies, right? The policies that they're talking about are just an abomination, but also the fact that you've got somebody who hates America that much, who's out in front and out there campaigning, not just with the guy out in Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed, but Ilhan Omar and Mamdani and plenty of others. Ilhan Omar was asked about this the other day on CNN, and look at her try and weasel her way out. She's perfectly fine. She's perfectly happy to be doing all kinds of campaign events with Hasan Piker. This is disgusting.
One powerful voice that has been a big topic of conversation is the left-wing streamer Hasan Piker. He's someone that you've campaigned alongside with. He put out a video backing your re-election today. There are moderate Democrats who have criticized Abdul El-Sayed for appearing on the campaign trail with him. What's your view of that criticism?
I mean, people, in a free country, people can have opinions about people who campaign with candidates. I certainly had my own criticisms of folks who campaigned, folks that were on the top of the ticket for us in 2024. Ultimately, we all put our heads down, try to get to voters, have the conversations that are necessary, because we're not able to have any kind of the changes that we want until we win. And so everybody's trying to do the best that they can to try to get their message out and campaign with whoever that they think can help them do that. Sometimes not everybody's going to agree the kind of messagery that you use, but it's ultimately the decisions that campaigns have to make.
Yeah, just the decisions that they have to make. Wow. Ilhan, I don't think you're doing yourself any favors. I really don't. And Mamdani, he's just about done in New York. Kathy Hochul, because she was buddy-buddy with him, is going to be done too. Just look at the polls. Just look at what Blakeman's polls are showing you. So they got a problem. They got a bunch of crazies. They want a bunch of crazy stuff. The Medicare for All, this says it all. If you would, Abdul El-Sayed, he wants to take away your health insurance. He wants the government in charge of it. Good luck with that.
What Medicare for All does is it does away with the private insurance market, right? It now has one single payer. That's why we call it single payer, right? One insurance, and that is the government of the United States.
Well, gee, that'll just be a winning proposition for all of us. So it's almost like you start to think when they start saying that America is the biggest terrorist organization, when America's the problem, that America deserved 9/11, and then they want to turn us, America, into some kind of third world nation with a bunch of third world nation policies straight out of the communist mandate. Then you start to say, well, whose side are they on really? And it's not America's. It's not our side. And this is why what you're seeing in Michigan, for example, is El-Sayed is sinking the party. They're going to lose. They really will. Mike Rogers climbing in ways that they didn't anticipate, because this shouldn't be going on in a state where basically you haven't had any conservatives winning. And yet now all of a sudden you're seeing this shift, because this is just not where the country is. Thank goodness the CNN poll started coming out saying this the other day.
Well, I was interested because I couldn't think of another example where you actually had a Democratic candidate who was down at least 4 points in a Senate poll in Michigan. And it turns out for this entire century, Abdul El-Sayed is the only one in a poll that meets CNN standards for publication. This is extremely, extremely, extremely unusual. Abdul El-Sayed breaking records in the ways that you don't want to. In fact, he is the first Democrat down by this much, as I said, in the century since 1994. Now,
yeah. Well, you know why this is? I think you got all this energy and all this buildup and all this momentum amongst the extremists on the left, in part because so much of the media hated Trump so much, right? The Trump derangement syndrome that was out of control is actually catching up with the Democrat Party and actually catching up overall with, the media even as well. You know who said this really well recently was, Brandon out of Texas. Let me see if I have this one for you, because I'd really like to show you. He really articulated this quite well. We'll find it. But I would also say Jennings knows this too. Scott Jennings, over on CNN Watch.
I do think Democrats have made a huge mistake with Abdul El-Sayed in Michigan. But I think all these races are going to be close. I think the Republicans do have good candidates, and I think the Republicans are going to have plenty of resources. And I think they've got a story to tell. Just Friday, we learned that for the first time in 60 years, prescription drug prices are falling. Every single politician everybody here has ever worked for said they were going to do it. Trump and the Republicans finally did it. There is a story to tell, and there is a bright line contrast to be had in this election. It's not good enough just to call them socialists. You have to say what you've done, and you have to say what the impact of their policies would be. But I think we've got enough candidate quality and talent to do that.
Yeah. I would say he's onto something in that for whatever reason, they couldn't be about anything except they were against Trump. You've got to actually stand for something more than just, we hate Trump. And they kind of put themselves in this position. I mean, they really did. And this has been my mandate all along. I mean, even, one of the reasons why people went out and stood in line to vote for Donald Trump was they felt that he was going to do something for them, that he had some answers to all the troubles that we were and are facing. And I would argue that he's done okay by that, and he's kept to his word. But here's Brennan Gill. I want to point this one out, saying, they have just been blinded by their hatred for one person, and that becomes a problem.
There are two things that unify the Democratic Party right now. The first thing, I think, is a deep loathing for America, for its founding principles, for its culture, its history, and especially its people. And secondly, I think, is a deep, visceral, blood-curdling hatred for Donald Trump. You can't turn on MSNBC or CNN for more than 5 seconds before you hear some deranged left-wing lunatic screaming Donald Trump's name, blaming him for everything wrong under the sun, never giving him credit for a single thing that he's accomplished already in just less than 2 years of this administration. That is what unifies this party. They don't have anything to put forward other than socialism and hatred for President Trump.
Yeah. Okay. So if that's all you've got, what do you think is going to happen? I mean, this was really bad management on behalf of Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer, who, by the way, is now suddenly pro El Sayed. Oh, we just need a little new blood. We're just going to have a big tent. Oh, good luck again with that. Because as I'm about to tell you, Kathy Hochul's going down in New York. Michigan is going down. All these people are going down. I mean, you look at the Socialist, what's her name, Rahman, out there in L.A. She was booed practically off the stage last night at that debate. Nobody actually wants this, but you keep telling yourself that. I mean, hey, it's good for us, right? I mean, I think, provided that, and I'm going to reference something that Ted Cruz said recently, which was quite true. If you love this country, we really shouldn't be wanting for any of these socialists to get into any kind of place of power ever. And we shouldn't, even if it's good for us as conservatives, it's too dangerous for the country to be courting this kind of insanity. But this kind of insanity is what is selling, if you would. And I think some people are trying to wake up. Some people are trying to recognize the challenge. I mean, even Hillary Clinton, okay? Again, fair warning. I have to give warning when I put her on, but she knows darn well.
You're not going to convince Republican voters in Michigan. And the real fight will be how do we make sure that people who voted for Haley feel comfortable voting for Abdul El Sayed, and how do we get independents to feel comfortable? And you can see that it's not just about Michigan, but the Republican messaging is communist, socialist. It's going to be a very effective attack.
You better believe it is, right? You better believe
America
it
is the top terrorist organization.
That's the guy that they're fighting. A guy who says stuff like that. So you got a communist, you got a jihadist, the president even calling them, dubbing them. Look at this, Ilhan Omar, jihadist, El Sayed, jihadist, Rashida. I mean, he's really, because whose side are they seemingly on? Certainly not the US of A. And so as a result now, you have the smart people in the party saying enough is enough is enough. We don't want them in the party. You've got to go out and find your own name. And it's not the Democrat Party. Well, unfortunately for James Carville and for Hillary Clinton and some of the other smart ones, they haven't found their own party. They're taken over. This is like a hostile takeover, if you would, of the Democrat Party. And there are people that are getting sucked in, like Kathy Hochul, who keeps making the rounds with Comrade Mamdani, who's in his own special form of HELL right about now, giving his pied-à-terre tax. Well, what do you think happens? Bruce Blakeman rises and rises and rises in the polls. And there was the Siena poll that came out the other day that showed us he's neck and neck. There's a 10-point spread. Like, this has not happened in ages, guys. This is a big, big deal. And people see him as getting things done. They see him as being in touch with the average voter. And he said, hey, you ain't seen nothing yet, because that's the Siena poll. Wait till you see mine.
better than was reported by Siena, because New York State funds the Siena poll, and we all know who runs New York State. Our internal polling and other independent polls have me within the margin of error. This is neck and neck. That's why Kathy Hochul's spending $4 million attacking me this week. But let me tell you something. Kathy Hochul endorsed Zohran Mamdani. Zohran Mamdani endorsed her. They are lockstep. Zohran Mamdani is anti-Semitic. He's anti-Christian. He's anti-American. And he has absolutely no idea what he's doing. He's a communist, and he doesn't understand that American values, the Judeo-Christian work principle, capitalism, have made us the greatest country in the world and created more prosperity than any country in the history of the world. And this guy wants to destroy America and bring in a system that's been failed. And Kathy Hochul is a willing participant. I will stop it when I become governor. We will get back to American values. We'll get back to capitalism. We'll create good jobs. We'll make it more affordable for our young people to live here in New York State.
Governor Hochul facing back.
Amazing, right? And so I think he actually has a real shot at winning this thing. And again, they have only themselves to blame. I mean, how on earth would you put somebody like Mamdani in as the New York City mayor? I mean, a city that's struggling with all kinds of challenges and is going to continue.
So how the administration published more than 900...
Actually, before I go to that, remember his whole pied-à-terre tax? I'm going to just go tax everybody who's got a home in New York City but doesn't live here full time, so we want to make sure that they are paying, quote unquote, their fair share. And then he came out with a list of 20,000 people, 20,000 names and addresses, and said, hey, you owe this tax unless you can prove otherwise. And there are a lot of people on there that don't have so much money to go and hire a lawyer and say, hey, that's not right. I don't owe that tax. Oh, not to mention that you're effectively creating this hit list, for Antifa or some kind of crazy group to go right down, and they can see where everybody lives and how much their apartment is worth. I mean, this is bonkers stuff, but this is exactly what he is willing and so delighted to do, because he wants class warfare and he doesn't want anybody to own anything. And remember the woman who's running his whole housing thing? She thinks that any kind of home ownership is actually bad. Well, now the Democrats in the New York City Council, they're imploding. They're like, what the heck have we got? This guy is bad news.
So how the administration published more than 900,000 names and addresses showed me that this is how the administration feels about homeowners in this great city, that this is something that we need to be ashamed of. A hit list of the haves and the have-nots, a scarlet letter.
They should show up and answer basic questions about the rollout.
Somehow today, the administration couldn't find its way within the same building to City Hall to answer questions about it. I find that to be totally unacceptable. I think New Yorkers are entitled to ask a very simple question. What are they hiding?
So residents taking issue with the city posting a public list of names and addresses that, quote...
Yeah. Not only did he post that list, when they went to have the hearing on the whole thing, he didn't even show up. He didn't even send anybody from his office. You know why? He doesn't care. All he wants to do is strike out at people who have worked hard for a living and actually have something to show for it. I mean, unlike him, couldn't even get into his own father's university that his own father taught all this anti-colonial stuff at. That would be Columbia University. Nope, they didn't take him, even though he checked off African-American. I mean, I guess he is African, right? Uganda, on his little form there. Like, he wasn't getting into Columbia. Wound up in Maine, at Bowdoin College, Maine, the place that wanted Plattner. Well, Plattner came up, by the way, in the LA debate thing last night, and this Democrat socialist was nearly booed off the stage. I mean, they don't like her. I'm telling you, the Democrat Party has themselves a real problem when they're suddenly like, okay, lady, who are you? You're in Mamdani's camp? And like Karen Bass is going to be able to ride that one all the way to the bank. I really, really miss having the Republican in the field there, because it would have been a whole lot more fun. But I'll tell you, the moderator, even the moderator in the debate in LA for the mayor position was like, no one trusts any of you. It was pretty funny. Watch.
We can end street homelessness. In my district last year, we reduced street homelessness by 49% over the past few years that I've been in office. We've reduced tents, RVs, and encampments in our district by 70%. This is possible to do.
So you challenge the 49% figure?
No,
I don't challenge the 49%. The question is, who did it? The 49% was done by Inside Safe.
No. Sorry.
Encampments
I'm so
off
sorry.
of the 405
No.
freeway that we removed. The encampment on the, wait a minute now, it's my turn.
But you were interrupting me the whole time,
off of the
Mayor Bass.
101 freeway was removed by Inside Safe. You have had encampments. You also have no problem with encampments being in front of schools.
Absolutely not. We
you
don't have any
said
encampments near schools in our district.
Well, you don't
there
have
were when I
encampments
first
near-
started.
See, this is the issue, is that the audience doesn't know who to believe, and they don't have a lot of confidence in either of you have the definitive plan.
You know how bad it is when the quote unquote anchor is like, nobody likes any of you guys. Nobody thinks any of you guys can do it. You are that bad. You are that bad. Nobody likes you. That's why we needed the Republican to win. Unfortunately, it is California, but the night was not over. It's a little bit hard to hear. So I want you to listen very, very carefully. You can hear it in the background. The Democrats in the audience start to boo Rahman because Rahman starts to go on about how she thinks that Mamdani's team and Plattner's team really knows the right way to campaign. And as soon as Mamdani's name comes up, they all start booing. I mean, they're no fools, right? They don't want their property tax going up. They don't want to be exposed on some list of 20,000 people because they happen to have worked hard and earned enough money to have bought an apartment. I mean, this is implosion, okay? This is implosion. And this is good for our country. This is good. This is good actually for the MAGA movement. But I'll tell you, they deserve all of it because they put themselves in this position by never actually standing for anything. Donald Trump took all the cookies and crumbs and cakes away from them, right? Anything that they stood for, including borders, which was a big part of their platform forever, he went and grabbed it. He all of a sudden was standing for the working class people in America. And it didn't feel like Hillary Clinton was, or Joe Biden was, or Barack Obama was. And so poof, you know what? He got all of these people that he wouldn't have traditionally gotten in, and they were left with no actual platform. I mean, what could they say? Oh, we're standing for working class Americans when inflation was at nearly double digits? I mean, it got really bad. Really, really bad. Anyway, I think some Democrats out in LA know that, which is why they didn't appreciate this answer from Ms. Rahman.
Councilwoman Rahman, the LA Times reported that you've hired the same political consultant firm that managed Graham Plattner's campaign in Maine, who had to resign amidst sexual assault allegations. Is that true, and is that the best choice, and why did you make that decision?
Well, I did hire an advertising agency to make my paid ads, who also worked with Mayor Zoran Mamdani's successful mayoral campaign and many other successful campaigns across the entire city. Here,
people literally were groaning when they heard the name Mamdani. Okay, we'll continue.
Here's what I do want to say, that I want to win this race. I've retained most of my good campaign staff, unlike this mayor from the first primary, expanded in the general. We've made sure to invest in our team, and I hope that we can win this seat, and I'm going to work as hard as I can to win.
Did you make a decision? Did you weigh the pros and cons of being associated with Graham Plattner's campaign?
Absolutely, but we wanted to make sure that we were hiring good people to make our ads. We have to get talent to be able to run our team. We weighed the issues, but I also do want to say that in this mayor's innermost circle, she had communications advisors who were on her WhatsApp chats, who were also, at the same time that the fire was burning in Boyle Heights, were doing crisis PR consulting for Lineage where the fire was happening. That, to me, is a real problem. And that's the kind of challenge
let's let Mayor
that
Bass
I think
address that. That's a good point, yes.
Well, certainly.
That wasn't a good look, was it?
No, absolutely not. And certainly that should not have happened. However, I don't know what the heck that has to do with the question that you asked her.
I guess it's a question of judgment.
I mean, get the popcorn out, right? I like that moderator, kind of letting it kind of free flow, because in fairness, Rahman did kind of hijack that one and then she turned it back on, but it was kind of interesting to have it. I mean, listen, Karen Bass should never be elected to anything ever again, given what happened in those fires, given that she was off celebrating right over in Africa instead of actually doing her job back in LA. But look, these Democrat socialists, they're an issue. And The smart people in politics know that that is not the way to get to the national platform and the national stage. And AOC, as a result, is trying to distance herself from those crazies. Woke one was kind of crazy, she said. She's not going to get away with that, but she's trying. She's trying. And now her own base, if you would, is deteriorating in real time. AOC has just lost the support of the very people that brought her to the dance. We're talking about the DSA. Democrat Socialists of America, they're cutting ties with AOC. In fact, they're even out with a statement. Here's an article in Fox today. DSA issues sharp rebuke of former darling AOC ahead of possible 2028 presidential run. They're like, wait a second, what happened? We brought you to the dance, and now all of a sudden you don't seem to care about the issues that we care about. Why would that be? Oh, because maybe she's actually waking up. She's actually maturing and she's thinking, gee, I need to have some kind of future beyond just being the congresswoman from New York. And in having some kind of future, I can't actually stand for this crazy stuff because nobody will actually eventually elect me. And that's just the reality. In fact, this kind of came up again, going back to Carville. He's kind of entertaining. He was on with Jesse Waters the other night, and here's how he explained it. Let me go to this.
I'm worried about the Democrats right now. I'm not. We're going to win the House.
You're not worried about the communists taking over the party?
No, they're a bunch of silly people. Those people you had on there, those DSA people, they're a pack of fools.
Actually, it's kind of dissimilar to what he said earlier today, don't forget. So he's trying to downplay this as not being that big a deal because he's talking to Jesse Waters. But the truth is, he's totally worried. He's worried enough that he's about to leave the party. But anyway, I digress. Back to what he's going to say on AOC.
No one pays attention to them. They ain't going to do anything. Now, you asked me about AOC. I do think she's very talented. She's certainly to the left of me, but you know what she's doing? What I think good politicians do, she's growing into the job. She's not the same person she was when she was elected in 2018. And when people change a position from what I think is a more naive position to a more realistic position, I'm going to praise them. I'm a guy. I like converts in my church. I can't get you to come into
agree.
It,
no, I agree. People can grow up. I have certainly grown up.
Okay, we've all grown up, but here's the problem. The people that like AOC, the people that are most enthusiastic about her, if they're not with her, how does she really get to the finish line? And also, think about the ammunition. Whoever the Republican candidate would be up against her, think of the ammunition. Well, you said this and you said that, and your answer is, well, I grew up. Okay, Sandy, I'm sorry. Like, that's not going to fly on the national stage. It really won't. So here's what DSA is saying. Meanwhile, they have no interest in this lady anymore. The Democrat Socialists of America Liberation Caucus is rejecting AOC as a potential candidate for Democrats in the 2028 presidential election, arguing that she is far too removed from the socialist agenda, right, that they so embody and love. Quote, Liberation condemns Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's continued retreat from socialist politics and rejects any effort to present her as the future presidential standard bearer for DSA or the broader socialist movement. This is what the DSA Liberation Caucus wrote in a statement today. So they see her apparently as an opportunist. They are slamming her as an opportunist and condemned her vote to defend Israel's right to exist and for not holding firm as anti-Zionist. Okie dokie. She's going to lose all her support from her base. I don't know who she's going to really have after this. But again, watch the pivot happening in real time.
But by the way, just a quick definitional thing. What, in your mind, is the difference between socialism and communism?
I think, to me, the fundamental differences, there's many. Yeah. One prevailing one is democracy. And I believe that democratic socialists are fundamentally pro-democracy. And we believe in the ballot box. We believe in respecting the outcomes of elections and governing democratically and ensuring that the ideas and policies that are implemented are won through popular vote and popular opinion. And so I think that's why so much of what we focus on is also making sure that we are providing for the majority of Americans, guaranteeing health care, raising wages, strengthening the right to a union. And I think that that's at its core what we're about.
Are you still a member of Democratic Socialists of America?
Of the New York City chapter.
The New York City chapter, not the national.
No, the national wants nothing to do with her. They are calling her an opportunist, and they might be right. I mean, she kind of seems like an opportunist. I mean, after all, if you said you agreed with all that, and now suddenly you don't, what are we to think? I think that you're looking at possibly running for president, and in running for president, you need to distance yourself from all the things that, you once stood for, because you know that nobody's actually going to elect you if you stand for all those things. I mean, you look at what's going on in New Hampshire right now, and she's actually way ahead in the polls. Whether or not New Hampshire is still the first in the nation is up for debate, whole other topic. As a New Hampshire native myself, I would like to see it be first in the nation. But that is that's what she's doing. She's trying to change course. She's trying to sing a different tune. And Miller knows it. Stephen Miller called her out spectacularly on Fox the other day. Let's watch this.
Of the so-called woke ideology that the left launched in 2020 in earnest and throughout these last number of years, although of course its ideological roots of Marxism and anti-Americanism and communism and third worldism all of course significantly predate that. What was one of its core tenets? The dismantlement, destruction, and defunding of our police departments. That policy objective, which remains in force in every blue city today, in Chicago, in Los Angeles, and New York, an unrelenting war against police. The result, the wages of that policy, were a historic increase in murders until President Trump came along. A historic increase in shootings, dead bodies, drug overdoses, gangs run amok, citizens living in fear, public...
In other words, it was really, really, really bad stuff.
Sorry, your loved ones are 60.
Okay.
The history of this city, but the history of any city. Nowhere has violent crime fallen so steeply, so quickly, so totally. He had to fight Democrats tooth and nail to reduce murders in this city. He had to fight and is still fighting a city council that at every turn has sided with violent career criminals over police officers. A city council and Democrat allies in Congress that believe if a 16-year-old or a 17-year-old
all right.
commits
so
a
this is
shooting...
actually not the right soundbite. Nonetheless, an important one. An important one from Stephen Miller. He's making the point that the president had to fight everybody in D.C. because everybody wanted to defund the police, right? Which was, by the way, part of the DSA mandate. Anyway, he's gone on to say, listen, AOC, you're not going to be able to just walk away from being part of an entire movement that was about defunding the police. It was about getting rid of prisons and getting rid of borders, et cetera, no matter how hard she tries. But I would just say, you know what? None of that even matters. Once people hear her talk on foreign policy, it'll be game over before it ever even began. I go back to the Munich conference this year, which always gives me a little bit of a chuckle, or actually concerns me at times to think that this woman would be running ahead of anyone, right?
Would and should the U.S. actually commit U.S. troops to defend Taiwan if China were to move?
I think that this is such a, I think that this is of course a very longstanding policy of the United States. And I think what we are hoping for is that we want to make sure that we never get to that point, and we want to make sure that we are moving in all of our economic research and our global positions to avoid any such confrontation and for that question to even arise.
Oh boy. She is... She's going to be entertaining to watch if she gets to first base on this stuff. The real reason that Meghan and Harry are leaving the United States and leaving LA, it's not exactly what you think. And it may have something to do with, dare I say, money troubles after the announcement about how much money he's going to owe because of the lawsuit that didn't go his way. We're going to get to that in a second. But first, little shout out. You know, I'm traveling right now. And one of the things I'm most looking forward to when I get home, I kid you not, my own sheets from Cozy Earth. They're really good. They're really, really soft. And I sleep beautifully in them. You know, there's a whole study that's come out about temperatures and, you know, how well you sleep at night. You want to be in a cool room with cool sheets. These are beautifully cool. These are the bamboo sheet set that I get. You can get it for 20% off, by the way. So nice little discount if you use code word Trish, cozyearth.com/Trish, TRISH. You know that. It would be great if you could go and check that out. Again, 20% off. So really, really great deal from Cozy Earth. These are the coolest, softest sheets I've ever slept in. And I've been traveling and have slept in some very nice hotels, but I cannot wait to get home to my very own Cozy Earth sheets. So I do encourage you to go take a look at that. Again, actually use Regan. What am I saying? I got to change this, guys. I got to change this. It is not Trish. It is Regan. Let me do cozyearth.com/Regan, REGAN. I'm so used to using Trish, but it's actually Regan for these guys. Cooler sleeping conditions, they tend to boost serotonin levels, contributing to improved mood and reduced symptoms of anxiety or depression or any of that. So it's a very good thing to have that enhanced sleep quality, which come from, in my view, these wonderful sheets where you just have that cooling effect all night. So go check them out. Again, you can get 20% off cozyearth.com/Regan, REGAN. Regan is the code word you want to use. So Harry and Meghan are leaving LA. Well, woo, that was like fast, right? Like, woo, like they were just arriving the other day and now they're out. And they are going back to the UK so that the kids can start school. And they are actually going back before the end of the month. Apparently, the king just found out about it on Sunday. I was in the UK. I found myself telling the cab drivers, because I had just found out. And they were like, wait, what? And the word on the street is no one likes her. Like, no one likes Meghan Markle. And I think there's a whole variety of reasons for that. But they still they like Harry, all right. They're not happy with what Harry did. But I heard over and over again, they blame her. They blame her. Well, he may need to blame himself for them having to move back because, you see, it's thought that there may be some money troubles going on. Yeah. You see, this news coincides with the report in the Financial Times today that Prince Harry and other privacy claimants are actually going to have to pay somewhere around $13.5 million or £9.5 million to the Daily Mail publisher. Associated Press, I believe, is the company that owns Daily Mail. And they had gone in and they had sued, he along with, I think, Elton John and Liz Hurley. And it turns out that legal bill, they came back and they sued these guys and they said, hey, you got to cover our legal costs because it turned out that their case didn't have any merit. And so now that legal bill is pretty massive and Prince Harry has to pay a big chunk of that. It is said and reported that he doesn't have a ton of cash just hanging around. Again, you're looking at roughly a $13 million bill. Harry and 6 other high-profile figures lost a privacy lawsuit against Associated Newspapers, this being reported in the New York Times today, and they may eventually have to pay more than twice that initial sum. So New York Times writing that they don't have a lot of time either. I think that the deadline is fast approaching. Just to back up for a second, they had accused private investigators of listening to phone calls, intercepting voice messages, tricking people into handing over information to obtain phone numbers, medical records, and bills. And effectively, I guess they were not able to prove that out because during the trial, they gave all this evidence, including Harry was giving evidence, and the judge decided that there was no wrongdoing and that no laws had actually been broken. So in that ruling back in July, the judge ruled that Harry and other high-profile claimants had failed to prove that the information they complained had been gotten illegally, had been gotten unlawfully. And as a result of that, they now have to pay the legal bills of the Daily Mail. So it's kind of a big deal, and it's going to be a lot of money. Now, this is a couple that really seems to spend whatever they have, dare I say. And I don't even need to say that. I think there was an article in the Daily Mail, it might have been, that was talking about that. In other words, whatever comes in tends to go out. They have a $13.5 million property in Montecito. They have another property apparently in Portugal, and they have like a $3 million security bill. And so all of this stuff together really has started to be rather burdensome. And now you combine it with, oh gosh, they're going to have to pay something like, what is it, $9.5 million that they're talking about there? $13 million. His share is going to be in the millions. I don't know what his share specifically is, but it makes it harder and harder, and it's kind of a shame because you think about the success that they were met with, right? They came to LA and it was going to be just so great. You were on the Oprah show, trashing your family, like they were trying to take down the royals or something. And then they had the Netflix deal and they had the Spotify deal. And I don't know if you guys ever listened to any of that Spotify podcast, but it was a disaster. There was nothing natural about it. Everything was scripted out. Here, there's no prompter. It's just me and you, and we're just talking. But with her, it was like a production. And there was a script, and she's following the script, and it was like painful to listen to. I played it for you back in the day. I was like, can you believe this? I mean, it was so syrupy, and then she came out with the jam line, and that was so syrupy, quite literally, and it was just too much. And so you're left saying, well, who is this woman, and why do I even care? I don't care. And poor Harry, kind of gotten steered down the wrong track, if you ask me, with that one. And she seemed to kind of want to break the royal family. And there may have been people that wanted to do that as well, whether it was Oprah or anybody else. There was like this idea that somehow they could prop them up and it would hurt the royals, etc. But guess who's getting the last laugh on that one? I would say Kate Middleton and her husband, right? Kate Middleton, who was torn apart by Meghan Markle. Here's the problem. Meghan Markle never understood that she was always going to be number two. She thought this was like a Hollywood star system, and she could come in and she could just suck up more oxygen, and then that would be that. But when you go to work for the firm, they got a number one and they got a number two, and one is the future Queen of England, and you're not going to take down the future Queen of England. No, there's an entire firm built around her, and they will make sure that you never, no matter how pretty or entertaining or whatever you are, you're never going to unseat her. And the reason for that is because the whole system is predicated upon her being number one. So that's a star system that Meghan Markle just couldn't break. And I don't think she really ever understood what she was getting into. And I don't have to think she ever understood why she couldn't break that. So now she's going back hat in hand to the UK. They're out of money, apparently. And I think that those Spotify gigs are kind of over and done with, as they should be. Who else may be done sooner than she thought she would be? The woman who's now running the WNBA, Sophie Cunningham, really calling this one out. Sophie Cunningham revealing something rather sensational about Cathy Englebert, the CEO of the WNBA. Something I've said all along, right? What have I been telling you? This woman does not really qualify. She's not qualified for the gig. She was over at Deloitte & Touche. What is she doing? Running a basketball league with all these big personalities. Anyway, Sophie, as you may well know, the beautiful Sophie Cunningham has come out in defense of women's sports. And she has said, this is specifically to ESPN recently, I got a lot of negative feedback about me hating trans. And I'm like, I never once said that. I think that I'm here to extend love, but I also think what that love is truth, being honest, and I want to protect young girls or young girls in sports, in a locker room, in sports, who shouldn't have to go up against a biological man. So what's wrong with that? That has turned into craziness, including, Riley Gaines, who obviously feels pretty passionately about this. You know her well. She was on Fox recently with Sean Hannity talking about this because she's kind of paired up and stood with Sophie, and she's appalled at the kind of hatred that Sophie is getting. And where's the WNBA CEO? I'm going to get to that in a second because she doesn't say boo. She runs and hides all the time. Anyway, here's Riley. Listen.
Bringing politics into sports. The league doesn't have a problem with politics in sports. They have a problem with conservative politics in sports. And I will tell you, Sean, every time Sophie was on the court, every time she was subbed in, every time she threw up the ball, she was booed by the entire stadium virtually, bar me and Jen Say, who is sitting next to me, owner of XXXY Athletics. They're trying to do to her what they've done to people like me, what they do to people like you. They call you reprehensible, totally inaccurate things like racist. And I think that's at best. And they use violence against you at worst. But I will tell you that Sophie is absolutely unshakable. She is unwavering, and that makes her uncancelable. And that sort of confidence and courage that she exudes is certainly contagious.
Yeah. I mean, so
I want to address the controversy that is happening right now.
Oh, we got to get to that because that's part of the hatred, right? This is this Meghan Rapinoe? I don't know how to say her name. She's a soccer player. And she's all for trans. Like she's perfectly fine. I mean, I'd like to see her go up against some male soccer players. But anyway, she's out there just trashing Sophie Cunningham. So this is partly what Riley's getting at, right? Like everybody's just out to hate Sophie. You know, they're out to hate Caitlyn because Caitlyn actually is a fabulous player. They're out to hate Sophie because, well, one, she's pretty, and two, she cares about women in sports. So apparently you can't. I mean, to Riley's point, yeah, they'll get political. They'll certainly get political. I mean, heck, you know, look at Colin Kaepernick. Different sport, different league. I get it. But they're willing to get political just so long as it's not embracing any kind of conservative values. Meghan Rapinoe, whatever, she's able to get political all she wants. Here she is.
I want to address the controversy that is happening right now around trans women in sports. As you know, I've talked about this a lot and will continue to keep talking about this. I don't know Sophie, so I can only project what I see about her beliefs based on her actions. And seeing a picture of her with Riley Gaines after the game told me everything I need to know about what's happening. Riley Gaines has made it her life's mission to exclude trans people from public life. She's directly tied to the Heritage Foundation, the authors of Project 2025 and now 2026, who have now published a report that suggests that they want to repeal Title IX. The very...
Okay, all right, just going to go on and bore us to tears. But, you know, she's on the attack. They're on the attack. You have the poor women that wear the XX and the XY, the mother and daughter team, right, that went to the Atlanta game recently, and they get kicked out by security. What is that about? Well, the WNBA is kind of panicked. So here's the headline that was in Breitbart. We talked about this the other day. The WNBA admits security in Atlanta was wrong for asking mother and daughter to cover the XXXY athletics T-shirts. And then there's a statement that gets pointed out the WNBA is aware of interactions at last week's game in Atlanta in which fans were asked by league security to cover their shirts. This should not have happened. Okay, again, it's blowing up, which is telling you why there's going to be some changes in the future, changes that I've been calling for forever. I've told you this woman is not capable, Cathy Englebert, of managing such a big league that's growing exponentially, right? You have great players like Caitlyn that should be featured all the time. And nope, they came up with some poster board and they didn't even put Caitlin Clark on there. Or Sophie Cunningham. The woman's not saying boo on Sophie Cunningham. So what is going on? It's because this woman's scared. She's never had to deal with quote unquote talent before. And she's worried, I don't know, that the Angie Reeses of the world are all going to walk. I mean, Adam Silver is her boss. And if Adam Silver were smart, he would be thinking about somebody who knows, one, how to manage talent, and two, how to manage from a PR standpoint all the incoming right now. But you know what? Sophie said this. Here she is. I think this is in an interview actually with USA Today. She said, and I quote, "You do have to have a person in power who is bold, who is confident, who wants the best for players and not maybe for themselves all the time." So I do feel like, she says, as a whole, that could be a position that's maybe open at the end of the year. But that's not my call. She then went on to say how it's Adam Silver's call. Of course. Apparently, Engelbert's contract is set to expire after the season, after the 2026 season. And so I would think that you would get a change. I would think it makes all the sense in the world right now. You've got a league that's just growing and growing leaps and bounds, and that's fantastic. And it's thanks to the Caitlin Clarks of the world. And it's thanks to the Sophie Cunninghams of the world. And yet this league wants to shut them out and make them go away, and they wish they just weren't the problem. Why? So everybody can make like 10 cents a game again? You know, you're going on to this sort of big stage now, Cathy, and these aren't a bunch of accountants from Deloitte. So you're going to have to figure out how to play in the big leagues. And you know what? I don't think you can. I think Sophie's right. I think there's a big change coming by the end of this season, and you're going to be out. Hey, you know, so be it. It's free market capitalism, baby, and you're not getting the job done. Speaking of free market capitalism, we've had a pretty good day in the markets. If you are not subscribed to my 76 Research, I hope you do that. Go to 76research.com. Check out all those portfolios. They've been doing great. We like seeing what we're seeing in the market today, but of course it comes as people had gotten very, very nervous about the bond market. The bond market was a big, big concern. We wrote about this in yesterday's 76 report. So again, 76research.com for all your market news. And for those, I think the real value is added in those model portfolios that I have. But I do want to get to what is going on in the markets right now, because you see that we're up. Dow's up about a percentage point, S&P up 0.5%. You get the NASDAQ up 0.5%, and you've got the dollar, struggling a little bit. This is, of course, related to some of the things I'm going to tell you about with Besant. Crude oil actually falling down. It's priced, crude oil may be sort of, as it flattens out here, perhaps a bet on things getting better in the Middle East. Gold way up, okay? Gold way up 2.4% today. You've got silver up 2.2%. You've got copper up nearly 2%. And you get the yield on the 10-year Treasury increasing again. Besant came forward after the announcement of the $40 trillion in debt that we have and said, hey, they're going to do a lot of bond buying. So they're buying back those bonds. And, well, it's kind of another way of, dare I say, printing money. If you don't have the Fed printing money, you can do the bond buybacks. And then that's another way of printing money, which is why it makes sense that you'd see gold and even Bitcoin rallying today. Let me go to Besant. He was caught sort of talking about this a little bit yesterday, and he's blaming the other team, and he's not wrong, because that other team did some really crazy things, and we're now left with $40 trillion in debt.
Remember, we did not get here in a day. That we were left with a mess. The Biden administration had the highest deficit to GDP in history when we weren't at war or weren't in a recession. For 2025, we brought it down by more than 1%.
All right. But, we're still in some treacherous times. And so that's why you're seeing this flight into safety. And the safety is not actually people running out and buying treasuries. They're looking at treasuries and saying, gosh, the U.S. has a lot of debt. And what is the future of that? And don't forget, you get all these countries around the world that are trying to rival us, as our friend Dr. Kirk over at KEPM pointed out recently.
You can go back to a couple years now, the Basel III Accord, which basically said what? It made gold a tier 1 asset, meaning it's viewed as currency in terms of lending. If banks are in the business of lending, they don't want to lend a worthless currency. They want to have collateral backstopping their lending, which is why central banks around the world didn't stop allocating into gold. In fact, they're adding to it. So what do we do then as an individual investors? Do what they do, just on a smaller scale, right? You can buy gold by the ounce. You can buy silver by the ounce. You don't have to buy it by the ton. Do exactly what they're doing, because I think the global financial system is changing. There's this paradigm shifting moment from currency creation as fiat money, basically meaning you just press a button when you need money, right? Versus something that's collateralized, that has a sound, solid backdrop. That is what sound money is all about. And this is where the global international financial monetary system is moving towards.
And in light of all this debt, in light of the bond buying back program, people are getting still nervous, and that's why you're seeing gold, for example, up so much in today's market. If you're interested in buying gold or silver, go check our friends at KEPM out. Trish loves goldandsilver.com. But really, wow, what a day. A lot of news. And you know what I'm excited about? Guess where I'm going to be? On Monday. Back home in my own studio, and I cannot wait. Thank you guys for being here throughout all of this travel and tuning in every single day as you do. It is so appreciated by me. You really, really have helped make this the success it is, and we're climbing every day. We're nearly at 1.4 million subs. I never would have thought. My son said to me today, "Hey mom, remember when like no one watched?" And I said, yes. He said, I felt kind of bad for you. And I was like, it's okay. You know what? It's all part of working hard. And I think it's a good lesson for him because, you know, when you stay at something and you really have this personal conviction, as I do, eventually it kind of all works out. It's really important to do what you love. It really is. I mean, if you're so fortunate to be able to do what you love, I think that really comes through. Maybe that's the difference between me and this Meghan Markle, right? I don't know if she really loves what she does. Maybe that was what happened with her Spotify and Netflix deals. We'll see. But anyway, thank you for being here. Thank you for all you do. If you haven't subscribed, do me the favor of subscribing to the show, and I will see you back live from my studio, the Trish Regan studio, on Monday, back in the US of A. I can't wait. God bless you. God bless America, and I'll see you Monday.